class 2 of Sculpey 101. Last time we blocked out a head. If you haven't done that yet, go back to there, click that, do it, click it. Okay, now if you have done that, it's time to do the eyes. Last time I said we'd do the nose, I lied. More important to block out the eyes. So, here's the first thing I do for eyes. Number one, always use reference. Always, always, always use reference. Okay, so, first thing for eyes I like to do is just basically gouge out sockets. So, use a bigger, rounder type thing. First try to get the general proportions in before I really go to town. Try to make sure I'm symmetrical and all that sort of thing. So, cheekbones, if you look at this picture here, the eye socket in the skull looks like the, look at this. This is what the eye socket looks like. Right, so you can see that the top of the cheek really starts going in towards the eye at this line down here. And that's like just above the nostril almost. So that's really kind of the watershed of the face. So from there it goes down to the cheek. From the top it goes into the eyeball. And so that's where I'm going to start gouging at an angle up like that. And then from the eyebrow down like this. Just gouging out a little V-shaped trench. There we have C3PO, and we're done. Thank you very much. Oh, no wait, we're doing this guy. This guy, not C3. Okay, so once we have that, I like to go in with my fingers because they're big, smudgy erasers, basically, or smudgy smoothers, I guess, is what fingers are. Well, mine are. Everything they touch gets smoothed and smudged. It starts defining the bridge of the nose a little bit. It starts defining the cheekbone. And then if you look at the side of the face, here's a good sculpture right here. Notice that the eye goes back into the head, right? It's not flat. The face curves. So you always got to keep that in mind. Okay, so there are two basic ways to make eyeballs, and it depends on what you're trying to do. If you're doing a one-of-a-kind doll, like these little costume kids I did, right, you'll use beads or glass eyes or some other spherical object and actually set it into the clay and then sculpt your eyelids around it. The other way to do it is, here's an example here. This is done by, what's his name, Philippe something. He's an awesome sculptor, but he made this board, right, that shows his basic steps. He kind of puts in the pad that goes above the eye, and then a blob for the eye, and just refines it from there. And so that's the other way to do it, and it really depends on what you like to do. I'm kind of torn on this because I want to show this little trick for how to get a fake highlight in the eye. So yeah, I think, well, here's what I'll do. I'm gonna do one eye, the bead method, and then I'll just tear it out and do it the other way. So let's see, I've got some beads in here. Look at all these beads and such. Another thing you're going to notice from reference is that eyes are way smaller than you think they should be. Unless you're making an anime character. Okay, but they're not that small. So let's see. Now it looks a little more like it. So when you start with the bead, you want to push it in deeper than you think it needs to go. Look at it from the side. Look at a picture of a person from the side, and how far, let's see, the cornea is from the bridge of the nose. There's some distance there, so make sure that that is in your piece. You don't want the eyeball bulging out, you know, flat with the plane of the face. This eyeball might still be a little too small. It's hard to tell. Let's see. So here is a simple way to do eyelids. You just roll out a little snake, tear it in half, put one snake on the put one snake on the bottom, one snake on the top, and then this is one of the reasons I love this tool. It's very easy to go in, just flatten them out. Yeah, the eye looks, the ball is still, I don't know, maybe 10-15% too small, so it's a little funny looking now, but you get the idea. After you get the eyelids in, then you got to do the little pad of flesh that kind of hangs over the eyelid. And again, that's just putting another snaky blob there and then smoothing it in. And the size of this pad of flesh is different for every individual. So you got to pay very close attention to your reference when you're putting it in. And then again, depending on the age of your character, the race, the gender, all those things, you'll go in and do a little bit of material under the eyelid as well, under the bottom of the eyelid. Also, depending on their expression, that changes dramatically the amount of you know, material that's around the eye in various configurations. Anyway, so that's the basics of doing a, whatever that's called, an inset eye. I'm going to go ahead and sculpt. Oh, that looked painful. Oop. Eyeballs rolling everywhere. It's a disaster. Okay, let's go back to our socket. Okay. So following the Philippe Farrell, I'll just put a link to his website there so you can get familiar with him. So basically, he does the fleshy pad over the eye first, then he does the blob for the eye. Now with this particular tool, you kind of roll the edge to create the eyelid. I can poke down into the corners of the eye to give the eyeball its sphericality. That is an awesome word I just made up. And then roll to the edges for the eyelids. The way I'm doing this head right now is kind of artificial for the sake of doing a class on each facial feature, because generally it's best practice to block in all of the forms in a very rudimentary way before going in and detailing each piece. So I'm having trouble making sure that all the proportions are correct at this point, because I haven't blocked in the nose and the mouth and the chin and all this kind of stuff. So there may be a little massaging that goes back and forth as I do this, but I really wanted a particular class for each one, because a lot of times it gets annoying when there's a super long tutorial on the entire whatever, and you just really need help with one particular thing. So that's why I'm trying to do these broken up. So I don't know. We'll see if it's worth it or not. Sometimes you need to go in and just re-establish your lines. At this stage, it's no problem to draw lines all over your sculpture, because you're going to be building up material and tearing it down all around there anyway. So that's just a habit to get into, is from time to time, step back, look at it, redraw your lines. So see, this eye, I used, I don't know, maybe 20% less material when I filled in the eyeball part of it, so it's like a 20% smaller eye. So it helps to draw those lines and be like, oh wow, that really needs more stuff in there. And then it's just as easy as taking a little scoop and flopping it on there. When you're trying to figure out the symmetry, again, try looking at many different angles. This is a really good one for eyes, is to look almost straight down and see where the orbit of the eyes, the iris, like pops over the horizon of the cheekbones. Flip it back and forth to make sure the top of the eye is the same distance from the bridge of the nose. Here's something you're going to notice the first time you are trying to make eyeballs like this, is that the volumes around the eye, the eyelids, the pads of fat and tissue that are above and below it, are very tricky to keep track of them in all dimensions and to reproduce them. And honestly, the only thing that's going to help that is just trying it over and over and over. And the more you do it, the more you'll accidentally stumble into a formula that seems to work. You'll move the tool just the right way that one time, and you'll be like, oh, look at that. That looks better than the last time. And those little kind of mini epiphanies will accumulate over time, and that's just how you get better at it. One of the subtleties that you're going to pick up on is that the eyelids are not an almond or a football shape. They tend to follow this angle from the corner of the outside of the eye up to about 3/4 of the way to the top, and then kind of plunge down into the inner corner of the eye. So the better you can capture that, the better off you're going to be. Unless you're making a gray alien, in which case go football, almond all the way. Another tricky thing is figuring out how to resolve the line that goes over the top eyelid. It stops at some point, right? But it's not like if you're drawing a line in the clay, you just stop the line as if it were a pencil drawing or something. You have to figure out what three-dimensional elements are converging that make that line resolve into the smooth cheekbone. And that, again, just requires poking around at it, pushing stuff back and forth until it starts to feel and look correct. And that's different for every individual as well. So every face provides a new kind of challenge on how to figure those things out. Okay, I think I'm going to call it a day on the eyeballs for now. The reason I'm not going to take them to completion at this point is because, like I said, I haven't blocked in the rest of the face, so there's always the risk that I'm going to have to move them or adjust them in some way. So I'm just going to leave them at this state for now, and then I think once all the features are in, then I'll go in and talk about how to detail them. So that's it for today. Come back next time and we'll do the nose. This time for real, I promise. I'm not nose teasing you this time.